Hey loves, my name is Iphannie and this is the Iphanniebgentle podcast. Today's episode, I'm going to be talking about something that I've actually never talked about before. If you guys are interested to learn about my birth story and just kind of what happened when I gave birth to Chandler, some of it was a bit traumatic. I'm not even going to lie to you. Some of it was a bit traumatic. But he is here, he is safe, he is all good. If you guys did not know, I do have a kid. I have a son, his name is Chandler. He is going to be 7 this year, which is crazy. So it has taken a while for me to actually share like what I experienced, just giving birth and the woes that come with giving birth, and just making sure that you're an advocate for exactly what you want when you are going through something as precious but as scary as giving birth to another human. If you are new, thank you so much for deciding to listen to my podcast. I really appreciate it. I hope one of my episodes resonate really well with your spirit and you decide to come along on this journey with me. And if you're returning, shout out to you guys because y'all have been killing the game. I got my first sponsorship and I'm super excited about it, but that would not have happened if it was not for you guys. So thank you guys so much. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background on the month of November. My son was born November 29th, 2015. So we're just going to backtrack a little bit to the beginning of November. I was still working. At the time I was working at Nordstrom. And I put in for my maternity leave to start November 5th. I don't know why I said the 5th. It was just something that was just like, do November 5th. And that's what I did. So I was like, my last day is November 5th. After that, I will not be back at work until I have my baby. And my baby is a few months old. So what happened was while I was, of course, on maternity leave, well, actually, leading up to maternity leave, I started to get these contraction type situations. Now, I am well aware of Braxton Hicks and all that good stuff, but I know people are like, they're not that strong. And then there are other people who are like, no, they're terrible. They feel just like contractions. They're just, a little lessened, but they feel identical to contractions, or they're just preparing your body for what contractions and labor will really feel like. So I was working, I worked in jewelry and watches, so I was doing a lot of standing, a lot of walking around, and that is obviously good for when you want to have a baby. They say a lot of movement, a lot of walking. It's going to help, everything loosen up and then help the baby come down further so you can go into labor. And so, I started having a Braxton Hicks. I believe it was like the day before I went on maternity leave, and I was like, if that baby don't come, then I'm just gonna, go to work the next day. And he did not come, so I went to work the next day. My last day of work, everything went smooth. I worked a light shift, and then I headed home. And mind you, I worked pretty far away from where I actually lived. And so I was constantly commuting, sitting in the car for about an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours, because y'all know that 405. If you're from LA, that 405 is no joke, okay? You will be sitting in a parking lot pretty much because you're not going anywhere. So I was sitting there and I would feel a little bit here, feel a little bit there, but it was nothing that I was just like, oh, baby's not coming. There was a few times, I believe it was around like the 11th, 12th, I had like a false alarm, and I went down to the hospital. I lived in Palmdale at the time, and I was giving birth at Kaiser Sunset. So you guys, if you're from LA, again, do the math on how far that is from one another. But I literally had my mom drive me down from Palmdale to the hospital, and they're like, oh, she's fine, she's just starting to dilate, but she's good, she's only 1 centimeter, she has a long way to go. And we're like, okay, fine. So Thanksgiving comes around. I'm like, first of all, me and my sweetheart, we wanted a November baby. We're both November. He's the 15th, I'm the 20th. I was like, if the baby comes November 11th or November 5th, it would be or November 10th, it would be 10, 15, 20. That's how our birthdays would roll around. But obviously that didn't work out. And so me having these Braxton Hicks, I was super excited. I'm like, yes, the baby's coming. We're going to have a November baby. We're going to have a Scorpio, blah, 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 because we're both Scorpios. We're going to have a Scorpio. It's going to be amazing. Ciao. my birthday rolled around and I was like, yep, this baby is not coming. I didn't even have like pains or aches. There was no Braxton Hicks. I was like, I'm never going to have this baby. This baby is really going to wait until its due date, which his due date was December 5th. So he's really going to wait until December 5th just to spite me. Like, he's already difficult. And, you know, I was doing everything. I was walking. I was exercising. Thanksgiving came around. I was cooking for Thanksgiving. I was on my feet the whole time. I'm moving around. I'm, doing everything that people are saying, like, everything that people are saying that you need to do in order to get the ball rolling and have this baby. And he just would not come. He would not come. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. I already have a Sagittarius and I'm just like, I've already missed the Scorpio cutoff date, so it's going to be a Sagittarius, whether it be November or December. But please, let me at least have a November baby. Don't ask me why November. It's just, November is something special for me. If you guys did not know, I have a brand. It's called Gentle Beauty, and I launched it November 11th, 2020. So obviously another November date. But I really just wanted a November baby. At this point, it was just like, if you come November 30th, at this point, I'll take it. I will take it. So, I was working out, like, I guess the day after Thanksgiving, like, doing the bouncing on the ball and walking and all that good stuff. And it was just, I was just like, let me pack my hospital bag because I ain't got nothing left to do. I'll pack this hospital bag. So this is, I believe it was like November 27th or 28th. I can't remember because, that Thursday, Thanksgiving falls on like the last Thursday of the month, so it just bounces around with the dates. So I packed my hospital bag and I was just like, well, whenever the baby decides to come, at least everything is packed. I had everything where they needed to be, like by the door, so if push comes to shove, I can just have somebody grab it and walk out to the car with me. And I was like 90% sure that he was just going to wait until his due date, or maybe even past his due date at this point, because I wasn't feeling anything. There was like no more Braxton Hicks. I guess it had been like a couple weeks since I had Braxton Hicks, so I didn't have any pains. My mucus plug, I don't even recall it coming out. Like, I was like, nothing came out in the toilet. Like, I am not going to have this baby until next month. And then, I think it was like November 28th. I did, like, my mom and my aunt were over, or my aunt was over at my mom's house, and she was like, oh, can you show me how to work out? And I was like, yeah, we can do like these kinds of exercises and stuff. And I was like working it out. I was showing them how to do it and all this good stuff. And I felt a little like, I don't know, like a little, I guess, I don't want to call it whimsical, but that's like the word that comes to mind, where my body was kind of like in a euphoric state. And then I went to sleep, and then I woke up, like this is November 29th, the morning. So I woke up, and this is 6 a.m. and it was just like a weird feeling. Like, I wasn't cramping. There wasn't a Braxton Hicks, but my stomach felt tight. And I was like, why does my belly feel tight? Now, mind you, if you're not pregnant or if you've never had a baby, especially during the YouTube era, everybody vlogs their experience. They talk about everything from finding out they're pregnant to delivery date to raising the baby. Like, them babies become your nieces and nephews at the end of the day. Like, that's how much YouTube goes, or YouTube creators go into detail about their lives with their kids and giving birth and becoming parents. And so I would always like watch videos. I think it was like the last 2.5 months of my pregnancy. I would just watch videos of like people giving birth and birth stories. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And they're like, oh, my stomach feels tight. And this is what a contraction may feel like. And so when I felt that tightness in my stomach at 6 a.m., I was like, this might be a contraction. And I kind of chilled for a little bit. And then like 30 minutes later, I was like scrolling through Instagram, and 30 minutes later, I felt it again. And I was like, that might be a little contraction. So I actually called my mom because I was still laying in bed. So I called my mom on the phone. She was right down the hall. And I'm like, hey, I think I might be in labor. And she's like, oh Lord, please not again. Like, you're waking me out of my sleep. Because I had went to the hospital maybe like 2 or 3 times. Like, I'm in labor. And they're like, girl, you're a half a centimeter. You're not in anything. Okay. You're going straight home. But the last time that I went to the doctor, I believe I was like 3 centimeters. And I was like, you can't just keep me until I turn 4. And they were like, no, because I could take days. And I'm like, days? So I ended up going home. So now I'm like at home and I'm like, I don't know, like this feels a little different. So she's like, okay, come on. So this is like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. I go to her room and she's like, is your stomach hard? And I'm like, yeah, my stomach is pretty hard. And she's like, maybe, because he dropped like crazy. She was like, oh, well, maybe we'll see. She was like, have you used the bathroom yet? And I was like, no, I'm going to use the bathroom when we're getting closer to leaving the house, because my fear, guys, I don't know about you, but my fear is shitting on myself while giving birth, because I just think I know it's natural. It happens sometimes because you're pushing in that location, in that direction. But like, I just don't want my baby to be born into shit. I don't want, literally and figuratively, I don't want my baby to be born into shit. And that was one of my biggest fears. My mom was like, no, just use the bathroom. You'll be fine. And so she was like, let me run you a bath. She was like, are your contractions like really close together? I was like, they're about, I don't know, maybe like 30 minutes apart. And she's like, oh yeah, we got time. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go and I use the bathroom. I go number 1 and 2, and then I sit in the tub, and I'm in the tub for maybe like 3 minutes. I'm in the tub for 3 minutes. My contractions went from 30 minutes apart to 5 minutes apart. I was like, oh shit, I think we broke something. Something is wrong. So we ended up going to, she grabs my bag from upstairs. I get dressed. And then, mind you, my mom is still not dressed. She's not dressed. She's like wiping off counters. If you did not know, my parents are Belizean. So my mom was like cleaning up the kitchen. She's like, oh, you got time. It's not going to, it's going to take a while. My mom gave birth to me in under 4 hours. I don't know why she thought it was going to take a while, but in her spirit, it was like, the baby ain't going to be here no time soon. We got time to clean up the house. No, we don't, mother. So the contractions weren't bad. I wasn't like dying or anything. It was just like, yeah, I feel you there. You know when you start to get those period cramps that you're just like, yeah, that period is about to come and it's about to fuck me up. That's the kind of cramps I was getting. Like, they weren't severe, they weren't horrible, but they were just like, I know you there. I feel you. I see you. Just stay where you at, because I don't want no parts. And I don't know, in my mind, I don't think I still registered, like, I'm about to be a whole mom. Like, I'm about to give birth to a baby, like a whole human, and I'm gonna have to take care of it for the rest of my life. I don't think that registered in my brain whatsoever. So I'm like, Mom, okay, the contractions are 5 minutes apart. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, let me go get dressed. Let me take a shower and go get dressed. So she literally goes upstairs, takes a shower, gets dressed. She's like, oh, I should wear this, I should wear that. And I'm just like, I'm gonna have this baby in the car. I'm having this baby in the car. And in my mind, I had seen so many videos. I don't know what it is, but every time you search something on Google or on YouTube, all of a sudden your newsfeed everywhere, it's like babies, 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 or shoes, shoes, shoes. That's exactly, it was like birth in the car, like live birth in the car. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have this baby in the car with no drugs. I'm terrified, because my plan was for sure to get every drug that they offered, give them all to me. I want them all. I don't want to even remember. Just give them to me. Like, I was having someone film the birth anyway. So if I wanted to remember what happened, I could just look back on it. But I didn't want to feel a thing. I just wanted the baby to slip on out and call it a day. So I was telling my mom, like, come on, we have to go. Like, they're getting stronger. But I was still like, fine. I was just like, because I'm not the type of person that takes medication when I'm cramping. I kind of just like thug it out, or I sleep it off. And it just felt like, okay, maybe I should go take a nap. That's what my brain was telling me, so that my body can kind of cope with the pain. And so I wasn't in severe pain, but I just knew, like, this is gonna be interesting, to say the least. Like, if this is just minor, cramps, I know them big dogs is gonna knock me out the park. And my mom ended up grabbing the keys, and we head out the front door. Actually, we went out the garage. So we went out the garage, and we get to the car, and she starts the car, and she's like, oh shit, I need gas. I said, what? You need what? She was like, oh, we can just stop at the gas station. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I literally felt like I was gonna combust within that little time frame. I was like, from getting from the garage door to the car door, I was like, yeah, these cramps are getting really bad. Like, I'm starting to feel them. So I get in the car, and she can tell that I'm starting to feel it because she's like looking at me and she's hearing me breathe, and she's like, let me call your sister. So if you guys did not know, my sister is Chandler's godmother. And so I told her she was going to be there. She was going to see me give birth. She was going to be recording it, all that stuff. She's godmom. That's what it is, period. She didn't have an option. And she worked at another hospital. She worked at a hospital down in Northridge. And so she just had to get on the 405 to the, I think it was the 405 to the 170 to the 101 to get to Kaiser. And so my mom calls her. She's like, oh, I think, it might be time, but just stay put a little bit because, we don't want to have a false alarm again, because my sister has left work before because I had a false alarm. So we get in the car, and she's headed to what I thought was the gas station, and I'm like, where are you going? She was like, oh, I'm going to this gas station over here because it's like 3 cents cheaper. Because the gas was 3 cents cheaper, she was like, let's just go to this one on this side over here. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, what? This cannot be happening. This can't be happening. I'm like, for real, Mom, 3 cents? She was like, them 3 cents add up. Again, I have a Belizean mother. So I'm like, okay, like, the contractions aren't too bad, so I should be good. I should be able to make it to the hospital and still have time to like get my drugs and get my epidural and get situated and then push and have a beautiful delivery and look beautiful and flawless like everybody else does in these fake ass YouTube videos where they're all dolled up and stuff. We'll get to that though. So we pull up to the gas station, and this is Sunday morning, by the way, so this is about 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday. For some reason, the entire city decided to go to that fucking gas station. I was livid. We pulled up, and I was like, we're never gonna get gas here. And she's like, no, they move pretty fast here. I'm like, come on, bro. Like, what are you doing at this point? Like, I think you're trying to play. I think my mom was trying to stall to see, like, if this was real labor or not, because she was like, if I get down this hill and this ain't real labor, I'm gonna be pissed. She was like, so let me just drag my feet a little bit, and hopefully, she's like, oh, the contraction stopped, we can go back home. And she's just right down the street. And so I'm just like, oh my gosh. And mind you, the contractions are starting to come. They went from 5 minutes to 2.5 minutes, and I was just like, oh my gosh. But they weren't overwhelming yet. So we're sitting there. I'm like, Mom, do you really need to get gas? She was like, yeah, gas is cheaper out here than it is in LA. And I'm just like, okay, just get the freaking gas so we can go. Like, we have 55 cars. Why do none of the cars have gas, Mother? Like, what is going on? You have a pregnant daughter at home. Like, I'm confused. And she was just like, oh, you'll be fine. It's probably a false alarm anyway. That's exactly what she told me. You'll be fine. It's probably a false alarm anyway. And I was just like, you trying to play. You're trying to play with me right now. This cannot be real. This cannot be my experience. And the whole time my mom's like chatting it up, talking. She finally pulls up to the pump. She gets out of the car. She starts to pump gas. At this point, I start to feel the tears. Like, I'm not even like in the position or in the, my body is like, here comes the pain. And it was just like a rush of just like heat in my body and tears at the same time. And I'm like, I think I started to panic a little bit because I'm like, the way these contractions are starting to hit me, I feel like I'm gonna have this baby in the car. I was literally looking at the clock on my phone, and I was like, that wasn't even 2 minutes at this point. I was getting contractions hit within 1.5 minutes. I didn't even know that was possible. I was so confused. I was like, what is going on? And she gets back in the car, and she looks at me, and she's like, oh yeah, this is the real deal. Let's go. What? What do you mean? Why are you playing with me like this? Why are you playing with my emotions? And so she flies down Pear Blossom. She hops on the freeway. And at this point, she's going like 90 something miles. My mom does not drive fast. She drives very, very much speed limit, very much make sure that I follow the rules. But the way that my contractions were hitting and the way that I was crying at this point, like, I wasn't even like, those cute little cries people do with just the tears running down. They have like this little sad face. No, I was like snotty nose, ugly face cry, like screaming, like, ah! Like, it was really bad. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have the baby in this fucking car on the side of the freeway. Like, and his dad is not here. Like, I can't believe this is happening. And I started to panic. My mom calls my sweetheart, and he's now my sweetheart, calls him, and he's like, she's like, yeah, it's time. She's in labor. And he's like, okay, mind you, it's 8:30 in the morning, so he's asleep. Like, he's knocked out. He lived in Long Beach at the time. I was in Palmdale at the time. So, you know, he had to meet us at the hospital. So he was like, okay, whatever. He hears me in the background, but I don't think it really registered in his head, like, oh, this is for real. So he's like, okay, cool. I'll get dressed and be on my way. Now, in my mind, I'm like, he's going to probably ride his motorcycle to the hospital. So he'll get there pretty fast and I won't have much to worry about. That's in my mind, but we will get there. Then my mom calls my sister. By the time my sister answers the phone, she's like, hello, you hear me in the background, just literally dying, because I wasn't having front pelvic cramp labor. I was having back labor. Now, let me tell you the difference. Front labor is like period cramps on 10. Like, you need to take a couple drugs to kind of like, you know, dope yourself up so that you don't feel all the pain, but it hurts more in your stomach and your ovaries, and you're just like, ooh, like, ooh, like, you're like that. Back labor is like a dinosaur kicking you in the back, an electric dinosaur kicking you in the back. It's sharp, it's heavy. I don't even know how to explain that pain being heavy, but it's heavy, it's hot. It feels like someone is literally ripping your spine out of your back with tweezers. It's so much worse. And my mom knew, like, she was like, oh, you're not having front labor, you're having back labor. And I was like, what the fuck is back labor, Mom? I don't know. Like, what is that? She was like, it's okay. We're going to get to the hospital. We're going to get you your epidural. Because I was very vocal about, like, I don't give a damn what y'all talking about. I don't care about none of that stuff. Once that pain hit, give me the drugs. Give them all to me. I don't care. That is that. Like, we're not going to argue. I had went to the hospital previously, signed all the paperwork for all the drugs that I can get. And that was it. Like, I knew that the way I was watching these women give birth, in my mind, there was absolutely no way that I was going to give birth to a baby, which was already, they said he was measuring like 7.5 pounds. That was like that big with no drugs. I just was not doing it. I wasn't mentally prepared to do it. And so in my mind, I just could not do it. And I was so determined not to get cut that I just definitely was gonna take any drug that I can get so I can push it out. It's just, that's what I wanted. That was my birth story. My birth preference. Yours might be different, but that was mine. So we're flying down the freeway. My mom's like, I think she's like, I'm on my way right now. So they hang up the phone. My mom's like flying down the freeway. She gets to that In-N-Out over there off of I think it's the 170, or right before the 170. She gets to that In-N-Out over there. Sorry, if you're not from LA and you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, I am so sorry. But, I'm not good with directions or freeways. I can just tell you where I travel, and that is it. So she gets to there. She's like, oh, and it's like a dealership over there on the right-hand side. So she's like, let me call Clifford again. So she calls Clifford, and she's like, how far are you? He was like, I'm about to get in the shower. Mind you, this is like, it's not funny looking back on it, but it's funny now. But mind you, my mom had called him maybe like 40 minutes before that. And my mom was like, what the fuck do you mean you're about to get in the shower? You're going to miss your son's birth? Like, what did you do? Go back to sleep? He's like, yeah. And she's just like pissed. She hangs up the phone on him. Like, she just full out just hangs up on him. And she's like going off. And I'm like, girl, I don't even want to hear all that. I don't care if he's here or not. This baby need to come out. Like, get it out of me. And so we pull up to my mom makes another phone call to one of her friends. And she's like, hey, Iphannie's in labor. Can you meet me at Kaiser Sunset so you can take my car out of the ER? The urgent, what is it called? Parking area or whatever. Because she just pulled up. So they're like, yeah. So she pulls up, and my mom is like still flying. She pulls up, and the security guard gets the wheelchair, and then he comes to the car, and her friend, shout out to her, because, you know, at that point, I didn't even care how I looked at how other people saw me. If I was like ripping my hair out, if I looked crazy, I did not care. Like, I was in that much pain. And when you get to that much pain, it's time to get the baby out. And so she pulls up, she's like, oh, congratulations. I'm like, I don't want to hear that right now. Just leave me alone. Just give me something. Like, help me, please. And so she gets in my mom's car, drives my mom's car, parks it somewhere. I get into the security guard and my mom help me into the wheelchair, and they wheel me to the front, and they're like, hi, what are you here for? Bitch, what do you think I'm here for? I'm having a baby. Like, come on, get shit rolling. So they're like, okay, can we see your insurance card? Why? For what? Because it don't matter at this point. I'm gonna have the baby whether you see my insurance card or not. Like, I give her my information, and she's like, okay, yeah, we have you in the system. We're prepping your room, blah, blah, blah. Cool. Just get me just get me the drugs. That's all I want to care about. That's all I care about right now. Get me the drugs. Like, even thinking about it, I'm just like low-key in a panic because I was in so much pain. My contractions were so close together, I could barely breathe. Like, I couldn't even recover from the previous contraction and like get a couple breaths in before the next round of contractions came. And so at that point, I was just like, I'm gonna die. Like, I literally felt like I was going to die. And some people, they have amazing, like, oh, it wasn't that bad, 2 pushes, baby out, everything was fine. And then some people are like, no, I passed out from the pain. And then I woke back up and passed out again. I felt like I was on the verge of passing out from my contractions because they were so bad in my back. My back was on fire. At that point, I didn't even want a back. Just take it all. Just take the damn back with you. Wow, take it. And so they wheel me into this room, and they're like, can you stand on the scale, please? Why do I need to stand on the scale? Like, what do you mean? And they're like, we have to take your final weight before you have the baby. And that's how they're talking to me. And I'm just like, get on the fucking scale, Iphannie. So I get on the scale. They're like, okay, you're 185 pounds. I don't care how much I weigh. Get the baby out of me, ma'am. So they're like, you can sit on the table. And I know they're trying to talk to me like softly to kind of calm me down. But I think more than anything, it just frustrated me more. And so they put me on the table. And she's like, I'm going to check to see how dilated you are. And I'm like, okay. The nurse goes to like check to see how dilated I am, and my water breaks right in her hand before she can even check. She's like, yeah, baby's coming today. All right, let's get the IV going. And I'm like, oh, now you guys can move. I thought I was going crazy for a second. Like, you guys were moving so slow. As soon as my water broke, they were like, let's get this, let's get that. I need this nurse, call her doctor, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, finally, bye.